A recent report suggested that 1 in 20 people who enter an Irish hospital pick up an infection in hospital. Now that figure compares very well with international standards. But the question is, does somebody have a claim if they pick up an infection in hospital? In any claim, one must show firstly that the other person had a duty of care to you, and secondly that they were negligent. Now of course the hospital does have a duty of care, but proving negligence is a different thing altogether. Just because you've picked up an infection in a hospital doesn't necessarily mean that anybody has been negligent. What you have to be able to show is that the hospital staff, through the lack of proper hygiene, or maybe the hospital themselves because of lack of proper procedures, gave rise to the infection. And that's not very easy to prove because there won't be any written record as to how the infection was picked up. What might be easier to show, however, is that the proper procedures weren't put in place to stop you getting an infection in the first place, so that, for example, the proper antibiotics weren't given to you after your operation. You must be able to show that the hospital and its staff didn't exercise the level of care which you were entitled to expect from hospital staff that were competent and knew what they were doing. It is easier to make a claim where somebody has picked up an infection and they weren't properly treated after the infection, because there will be a record of what that infection was and what the treatment was that was given in the hospital. In any case like this, what we first do is we make sure that we get a hold of the patient's medical records, and indeed you're entitled to get them yourself, and it would be well worth your while getting them and reading them before you do anything at all. And then we send the medical records to a specialist, consultant, who's generally in the UK, and he will come back to us and tell us whether he thinks, based on the evidence in front of him, there is a solid claim in negligence. Sometimes there is and sometimes there isn't. And if you have had an experience with a hospital-acquired infection, give us a ring, we'll talk to you and we'll tell you honestly what we think of your case.